Welcome to Wayward Writers. I'm senior literary agent and author Heather Cashman.
I'm author and writing coach Stephanie Bearce.
And I'm author and writing coach Nicki Jacobsmeyer.
Our mission is to nurture and enrich established writers throughout their publishing journeys.
We welcome all genres, age groups, and publishing paths through video podcasts, online webinars, in-person retreats, and more.
We're here to help you conquer your path.
Hello, all of our lovely Wayward Writers community. We are so grateful to have you with us today for this episode on something that one of you asked for.
Yes.
And we love that. We want to help you succeed and get the answers you need. So we are going to be talking about the murky middle of writing and basically the murky middle of your manuscript. Say that 5 times really quickly.
What is the murky middle? Good gracious.
Yeah, I have heard it called like the muddy middle, the sagging middle, the slow middle.
I kind of like the middle.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're good at middles.
I'm a weird writer.
Yeah.
Stephanie, tell us what a sagging middle is.
To me, when I'm reading something it's when I get to the middle and there's no purpose. It's just like somebody was writing and they knew they had to meet a certain word count. They have the beginning, they have the end, and they're just like, we've got to wander around for 20,000 words right now. And they're trying to flip to see what happened. So that's to me what happens with it's a sagging middle.
The muddling middle.
Yeah.
It's the middle just doesn't pull it off.
It drags.
Yeah,
or it can drag. And you know what? I think it's probably fair when you read a murky middle, you're like, as writers, you feel for the writer because you're like, you must have been miserable at this point because I can feel your misery. You know what I mean? And usually that's hopefully not when it's published. That's just drafts. And that's what we're all here for, is to help each other be like, okay, how do I make this middle more exciting?
When the middle is good, it's so good because that's when you're so into the book and you're just eating. You don't even want to get to the end because you're in there and you're with those characters, and it's just the middle can be so fun because
For sure.
That's the bulk of the book. I love it so much.
Yeah. You've invested all this time, right? Already. So it's not like the first 10 pages where if you are like, oh, I can give up, but you've invested time and you know these people, right? So we owe it to our readers to give a good middle. So Stephanie, I know you are good at this, very good. How do you keep the momentum going in the middle of your story?
I don't know if I'm really good, but I actually like the middle because I like to torture my characters and be really mean to them. And that's when you get to do that, is in the middle of the book. So you can set them up on this lovely little life, or what they think's a life, and then you start doing very bad things to them. And so I guess that's the masochist in me, but it's great fun
for those of you that don't know Stephanie. Now you've gotten a little glimpse.
Now you know. So I'm reading the book, whatever book that I love, and I'm reading it. Oh no! But then it's but I got to see what happens. So that's what I love about reading books. It's like those twists and turns that you can put in there that just keep me reading, and I love those. So that's what I try to do. It doesn't always work, but that's what I like to do. How about you guys? When you're reading the middle or you're working on your middles, what do you try to do? Heather, what do you try to do with your middles? And you read besides your own.
I do read a lot of middles. I think the thing is that the middle has to be intentional. I think one of the difficult parts of the middle of the story is, like you said earlier, people know the beginning. Often some people get ideas of a climax or an ending of a book that they want to see, and then they start with that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that for me, the middle has to be almost as climactic as the climax of the book. And I have an example of this, which I love because it's just so clear. If you've never watched the Terminator movie, the original Terminator movie, To me, it has the perfect middle because we've established our characters and we've gotten to that 25% mark where they're aligned and they're working together. And then we have this amazing middle where they have this big conflict with the actual Terminator, and our main characters are triumphant. Like, you see the Terminator inside the semi truck, and the semi truck blows up, and they are walking away from the semi truck. And then what do you see? Do you guys know?
I don't remember. I'm gonna have to go watch it again.
In the very middle of the movie, once they think that they have defeated him,
He's
okay,
back.
their romance is good, they're happy, they feel like they've defeated him, and he walks out
Out.
of the
That's
fire
right.
as
That's
this
right. The classic
gleaming
out of the fire. Yeah.
Terminator.
Yeah.
Okay, so you go from this super high point of we've defeated him to this amazing low point where they're like, holy whatever, this guy is,
We can't get rid of him. It's like the Freddy
whoa.
Krueger ones too, where it's like, we killed him. No.
Yeah.
I do
So
think
I
that's
think that you have to be intentional and you have to make your middle the opposite of your climax. Like, you have to flip it on its head. Flip the climax on its head and make that your middle.
I like that. I think what I usually call that, like the Terminator one, is like it's a false victory. You know what I mean? You think
Yes.
you've won. It's a victory, and then it's actually a freaking defeat. And I do think that that's really
Yes.
good, where that kind of twist, where you
It's
think, oh
one
my gosh,
strategy for sure.
yeah, I
It's
like
one
it. It
strategy.
is
It's
an
not all
effective
the
one
strategies.
because it turns the book on its head,
Yeah.
and then you're like, oh man, what are we doing now? So that's
Yeah,
fun. What about you, Nikki?
I love as a reader, I love a middle where I think I've figured it out, and then then the writer twists it and I don't. I'm completely upside down on what is
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know. I try to a lot of times to break down a novel for myself. It's like chapter by chapter. And so I try to look at a chapter as the book. And granted, we need pacing and not wear your readers out and stuff like that. But I think if you use each chapter, the goal is that the person who's the readers, okay, I'm going to read one more chapter and then I'm going to bed. And like the goal is that they cannot go to bed at the end of the chapter because you have left them just hungry for more. So that's what I try to do because I feel like I'd rather have to dial back on a revision than be like, so I was so bored. I took a fork to my eyes. But I think it's challenging, but I do agree that being intentional, I think for me this is where I have to outline in some way before I start to write it because if I'm bored at the outline, like I don't even need to write the words. It's not going to work.
And I think another strategy too is you have certain points in your book, and it's not necessarily always at the same time. My personal preference when I'm writing my own books is that quarter point, the midpoint, the climax point. But I think one of the keys is to make your plot and your character arcs like coincide at those moments. Like, your midpoint needs to have a plot point that is momentous, but it also needs to have that emotional moment and it needs to have that character arc moment all combined into one thing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? What's an example of that? 'Cause it's
It
like
is so hard.
it's a lot. So how do you do that?
It is a lot, but you are the master of the plot, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it starts with the character. Let's say at the end of the book, you want the character to end up at a certain place, and you know where they begin at the beginning of your book. So, what is a realistic, essentially, midpoint to that arc? Like, where could they have gotten by now? Because they should have made some kind of forward progress on the character arc. but they haven't quite got there yet. And then think, what realistically in my plot could happen to my character? Brainstorm. What can happen to my character that would create this kind of character growth for my character?
I like that idea
That's,
though, Heather, that you're talking like you're working backwards in a way. I want to
yeah,
get here in my plot. My character is here. So what needs to happen that is
yeah,
realistic and authentic to the story that can happen? And again,
right.
that's intentional. And what you said earlier, like some people are like, oh, I have this great ending. Like, I've never heard, have you ladies, where someone's, I have the best middle to a book
Right.
ever? Says no one ever. So I think a lot of times it's a discovery thing too. Like, you become intentional once you start writing and the characters start
Yes.
talking to you. And, maybe like you said, you're chatting. This is great, like to do with critique partners and brainstorm. Hey, what would be a cool idea? And what do they say? Write
Yeah.
down 10, throw those out, and then keep going. I don't know.
I can actually give you a for instance on this. So in my client Mark's book, it's called Sky's End. And I don't know if this happens exactly in the middle, but it's close to the middle. He So basically they're on a ship and you can either be the captain is the highest or the swabby is the lowest. This guy has all this pressure. His name's Conrad, and he has all this pressure to rise and to win and to become the captain. If you become the captain and you win the competition, you get the ship, like you get to keep the ship and it becomes yours. So, like, his entire family's livelihood and his own livelihood depends on him winning this. And there's a lot of pressure. And right around the middle, something happens, and I'm not going to reveal tons of stuff, but basically, he gets made the swabby. And it is like such a blow. It's a blow personally, it's his entire futures depending on this. And he's either going to rise or he's going to decide it's too much and he's going to quit. And it really shows the mettle of your character. Like, it shows what they're made of and who they are. And to me, like, it's just this huge moment where you give your character a choice to move forward or not.
And it's exactly what I was talking about. What would be the worst thing that could have happened to him? I do think when I'm critiquing other people's work and my own too, because you become attached to your character, your main character, and you like them. And sometimes I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't really do that to them. That's just too mean. And so you do need somebody else to go, oh, yeah, you need to do that. It
But
really
life is
is.
mean.
Life is mean, and this is a
So
book,
true.
and you can get them out of the problem too, as bad as you get them in. But I do think I see that often is it's like, oh, I couldn't really do that to them. Yes, you can be that evil because it's going to make, just like Mark's book, it's going to make it so much more intense, and that pain that he feels and having to make that decision. So I do think that I was kidding, but not really. Torturing your characters, like figuring out what do they really want and what can I take away from them. And I do think one of the things, the techniques that it's awful when you're reading the book but when a writer strips that main character of all the things, takes their friends away, takes their money away, takes everything away from them, and they're just left there on their own to have to make their decisions. I think that's when you get some really powerful story, and you do see the metal of that character.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but it's mean. You have to be mean. So writers, be mean. I don't know. It's my advice. What do you say, Nikki? What do you think?
I don't know. I think murky middles can come. I know we're talking a lot about novels, but they can come in any kind of story, even picture books,
Yeah.
even though they're short, right? We've all read picture books
Yeah.
where it's like, where are we going? Or what are we doing here? And I think, like anything, when you read something as a reader, you're enjoying it. And sometimes it's hard to be like, oh my gosh, that was so good. And okay, why was it good? And I know I often find myself, I have to reread things and look at it as a writer and try to depict what made it a good middle or things like that. I would recommend doing that too, but
I
I
have to
think
say that in picture books, there is a middle and they can be saggy. It's just that there's so much less middle.
yes, and there's less to fix, right?
It's hard. It's hard, but it's like when you have the middle of a novel, it's lots and lots of words to
Yeah.
fix. It
And I
is.
think this is a good thing for a beta reader or in your critique partner. Like when at conferences and stuff, when there's first pages, like
Mhm.
we can't have like just a murky middle section where you just come in
Good
with,
though.
but it would be really helpful to be like, where after 25, 30% are you like, eh, I don't care anymore. Because I think that's the thing, right? Sometimes why I think middles are hard too is because as writers, we have our first 10 pages should be the best 10 pages we've ever written in our lives because they have been critiqued so much, right? That they are just like sparkling. But the middle doesn't get seen as much because it's bulkier.
But it will
So
get
sometimes,
seen by your editors
oh, it sure will. And your agent.
and
And
your agent. So,
so I don't know. I'm still working on this murky middle myself, but
so some
I think,
people introduce, like, they introduce new characters or a new subplot.
yeah, that helps
I
spice it up,
hate
right?
that. I hate it when there's a new
In the middle,
character in there. I'm like, wait, where'd they come from?
I
Um,
would agree. There has to be an
but
organic way
but
of doing
I
that.
don't know. Is that a way that it could maybe a new
Heather, do
enemy
you
you didn't know you had? Heather, what do you think?
subplots and sub characters or minor characters, I should say?
I think you have to be careful.
Hmm.
I do think that you can do it. You can finesse it. I think the way to do it is if you're going to bring somebody in, there has to be at least a half sentence mention that such character exists
Mhm.
in the world or such thing exists. Like, for instance, you're in a fantasy novel and you really want your character in the middle to face this huge, let's say, weather crisis. Okay. And all of a sudden, you bring in a storm from this world that is unique to this world that specifically solves whatever problem it is you want your character to face. And we're like, where did that storm come from? I've never heard of anything like that before. And even in a fantasy novel, your readers are going to be like, I don't know what this is. But if you mention in the first, like after 20 pages of the book, that, oh, so and so just came from this area and they were having this type of storm. And then we get to the middle and there's that type of storm. Okay, like we know that happens and we know that could happen to our character. That's fine.
Okay.
You can't solve your plotting problems by just bringing in some like brand new concept or brand new character
Poof.
and then expect the reader to just be like, oh,
Yeah, too convenient.
no. Readers today are way, way too good at reading, right? They know story. I was just like, I took this gondola ride up to, I don't even know where I was, somewhere in the mountains. And there's this little tiny shop, and this woman is in there, like manning the register, and she's reading this book, right? And I was like, hey, what you reading? Right? And she shows me her book and everything. And she was so well versed. She was like, oh, yeah, I love this arc. And I love that. I'm just so glad that romantasy is a genre now and that like we're getting more of this and
Where'd
that. And
we go?
she knew her stuff and she was a reader. And I was like, are you a writer? And she's, oh, no, I love to read. And they
Mhm.
know. So you have to be skilled enough that those kind of readers who could probably write a story if they wanted to,
Right.
um, they've got to be immersed and stay immersed. Any little thing that you do to try and like take the easy way out, they are going to see it. It's going to be transparent. So don't, I would suggest having a thread that goes
Mhm.
all the way through, even if it's a very small thread, I suggest that there is nothing in your book that is only there one time.
I think that's a
So,
good suggestion. I heard a lecture from Linda Sue Park one time, and she said if she has something in her book, it will have to be in there 3 times because it
yeah,
will be
she called it a
significant.
magic mushroom.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I was at that conference and I
that's very
remember
good.
listening.
So, what about revision? Okay, so you've written the draft or however many drafts, and you take it to your critique partners, and they're like, "Okay, this middle is not working." How do you tackle it, Heather and Stephanie? What have you done in the past? What do you recommend? This big looming mountains
I do
right in front
think,
of you.
as Heather was saying, having someone read it, and I think Nikki, you were saying too, your beta readers are just going to be so critical in this. And having beta readers who know, like you said, they may not even be writers. Sometimes I have some beta readers who are just voracious readers and read a
Hmm.
lot and understand it. And somebody who's really honest and will flag those points in the middle that's, yeah, I'm drifting off here. Do we really need this part? So I do think getting really honest feedback about that middle is incredibly important. So you need people who are good readers, not even necessarily authors, but people who really pay attention to reading those story arcs and know how to keep that pace, what the pacing should be. So to me, that's what I'm always looking for. I'm like, please tear it up and tell me what's not working. And then if I know what's not working or what's not making sense, then I have a chance to go back in and fix it. But I think we all become very blind to our own work, and it's just difficult to see it for yourself sometimes.
Hmm.
So for me, that's the best thing, is what somebody else is willing to tell me. What about
Stephanie,
you, Nikki?
I agree with that, and I also think we become blind to our critique partners' work. Right, a novel takes can take a long time to write and revise and things like that. And sometimes, if I know my critique partner's intention, I sometimes put it on the page when maybe I'm not
Mm.
reading it. So, like you said, like beta readers, or even some people, like they get this round of revision, and then
Oh,
maybe
absolutely.
it's later, right, that
Yeah.
these set of eyes do something different.
I actually do that very intentionally. I have a critique group that will see like the start of it to make sure it's something that's going to be interesting. Is this idea
Right.
viable or not? And then I don't show it to them until, thousands and thousands of words in, so that they can get an idea of it. And they'll get a third and a third. But then I always have people who have not seen it at all, so that they can have totally fresh eyes and read it. Because yes, you get blind to your own critique partners. You work with your own critique partners sometimes so well and for so many years that you can read their mind. You're like, I put this in here. I'll just help
And
you
I'm not
out.
right. No, for sure.
And I
Yeah,
think there
I
are
think
a
it's
lot of
critical.
ways that people point out your that muddling middle, right? Like there are a lot of terms or phrases I think that people use, like it got a little slow here, or I
Mm-hmm.
put it down and it took me a couple days to pick it back up, or I'm starting to lose interest, or there's not a
Yes.
whole lot of tension here.
Yeah.
And I think you need to really pay attention when anybody says, "Oh, I'm not feeling like finishing,"
Mhm.
or something like that, because those are all signs that your middle isn't keeping them interested.
Hmm.
So let's talk about solutions. Like, how do we practically go about fixing these middles when somebody says something like, that's not concrete feedback, this is how you need to fix it? How do we go in and fix those middles?
I actually go back and ask the people who've been reading it and say, what I ask for specifics. If somebody has given me, oh, this was dragging and everything, is, no, tell me, what would you have liked to have happened? What did you think should happen? And get some, even if it's, they may go, oh, I don't know, I didn't write it. But a lot of times people who read have an idea. This was too long. maybe you could just cut this. And if you go back, I go back and ask for specifics, even if they're hesitant to give it. It's, I really want your opinion. And I do get clues in there what I need to do, whether I'm needing to cut a scene or add a scene or add pacing. So I go back and ask for really specifics from the people if they've given me something vague like that. It usually helps. Usually people are able to express more. Sometimes people just don't want to hurt your feelings. You're not hurting my feelings. So I don't know. What
Right.
about you, Nikki? What do you do? What are some specifics that you do?
I think it depends too if what they're telling me is it a plot issue or is it a character issue, because
Mhm.
those are different. And if I can try to get the fix earlier, it's better. I don't know. I feel like every project is different for me. And like I said, I've only written a few novels that, you know, are very rough. But as an outliner, you go back to those plot points, like you said, and shake things up, like interrogate your characters. Or if it's a plot, what is something new and fresh that could happen? And if you need to brainstorm with writing partners or even readers, right? There's so many things in books that we want to see that asking more questions is always helpful, because sometimes people don't know how to articulate exactly what it is that is not working. And asking the next questions helps to do that.
Yeah. I think one thing for me, like some concrete, actionable things that you can do is you can go and look at your rolling action. Like in every instance, your character needs to have something they want. That's how you start your book, right? Your
Mhm.
character wants something. How are they going to get it? They're going to make a plan. So your character makes a plan and they execute the plan. That's the action, but it doesn't work. Or something doesn't work quite well, or something happens that foils their plan, right? So then they have to take a moment and they have to think about it. And then they formulate a new plan and they say, okay, I want this thing. This is my plan to get it. And this is the rolling action that happens all the way through your book. And the thing is that character arc changes what they want. If you have a true character arc, they're not going to want the same thing that they wanted in the beginning of the book. Or maybe they will, and it's a different kind of character arc, but their perspective is going to change about what they wanted, right? So to me, your character is going to keep changing. Your action is going to keep working against them, or your character is going to have actions that they do. So a lot of times, what I see in the middle is that these aren't following. Like,
Mm.
your character is getting distracted, your character is suddenly found something else that they want for who knows why, and now they're going after that thing, and we've lost the plot. So I think looking at rolling action, looking at your character arc, looking at how things are moving forward in a logical way, that can often help you get through the middle. And I also think, like I said before, really looking at how you have these very impactful moments that are huge moments in your character's life. Those have to be built up to, right? Like
Mhm.
they can't just happen in one chapter.
Hmm.
Things are building, and then they fall apart. Things are building, and then they fall apart in a major way. So I think that as you go through your book, you can look at these really scene by scene. How is my character changing? Scene by scene, what is happening with the plot? And then also remember that life happens. This is a world that you've built. No matter what kind of story it is, it has a world with things that go wrong. So
Yes.
sometimes it's going to rain. Sometimes maybe there's a monster at your door. Sometimes there's all kinds of things that can also happen to add tension. You're going to be building conflict with different characters. You also have your subplots going on, and those also need to have these moments too. So I feel like almost with story, for me, the hardest part is containing it, right? The hardest part is actually
Mm.
keeping it from having too much stuff going on.
See, that's a whole different kind of too full middle.
The
But it's a
explosive
messy
middle.
middle. It is.
It
It
is
can go
messy.
both ways. You can have too much
It
and it
can.
Okay,
becomes
here's a question on
yeah.
instead of getting it on the back end, how do I as a writer as I'm writing my story and I'm approaching the middle, are there any flags or warning signs I can see on the horizon that are like, "Hey, your reader's getting bored or this isn't working," before I finish the entire novel and then have someone tell me on the back end that it's not great?
I
Are
think
you
one of the
bored?
biggest flags, yeah, I was gonna
Fair.
say, are you bored? Are you stumbling around as the writer in the middle going, I'm not really sure how
Where
to
I'm
get
going.
to this ending I
Yeah.
have?
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the ways that I like to think about it is what Heather was saying before. The scenes are so important. For
Mhm.
me, I really consider each chapter a scene. And what helps me is that every time I get to the end of the scene or the end of the chapter, it needs to end on a cliffhanger. Every single one. And if it doesn't, I'm going to go back and rewrite that chapter until it ends on a cliffhanger so that you want to turn that page. I don't always succeed, but that's my intent is that every chapter has its own cliffhanger. And that way, I feel like if you can do that, you're propelling it forward all the time. So there's a forward motion in your story and a forward motion for the reader in wanting to turn that page. So I think it's really thinking of those scenes, how you end that scene so that chapter, that next scene propels you forward. I don't know if that
Yeah, and
helps.
people can get lost in the middle of a scene too.
Yes.
You can have too much in the middle of your scene, and that slows the
Mhm.
pacing too. Middles are
I
everywhere.
do think the middle is a lot about pacing. It's
Yeah.
keeping the forward momentum and not just stopping to smell all the daisies and tell the
Yeah.
colors and and describe the feel of it.
Like Nikki was saying, people are so diligent about their first 10 pages. I've seen in queries, people are extremely diligent about their first 30 pages or 50
Mm.
because that's what agents ask for
Sure.
next. But then after that, you start getting a lot of the really like lazy kind of writing. Like things might start getting passive. Your voice might start getting passive. Your prose just might not quite be as dynamic as it was in those first 50 pages because you haven't spent time on it. You haven't spent time on the rhythm of your scenes or the rhythm of even your paragraphs or your sentences. Are you varying sentence length? There is
Mhm.
so much to writing, even in the line stuff, that can really help pick up pacing and things
Mhm.
like that. And we need to be diligent all the way through the manuscript, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I do think that's part of what making a really good story is staying diligent. And I have to say, some of the times I'm most disappointed in a published book is when it's been a well-published author, and I almost feel like their editor didn't make them go back and be diligent about,
Yeah.
oh, they're so good, we don't need to edit
Mhm.
this, and then I get sad as a reader. But yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So what is there any like tools or resources you guys use that you feel like helps with the middle specifically?
oh dear.
I have an outline that I use if I feel like a client has not turned in a manuscript that's really delivering. I actually have a it's my own thing that I created. It's a document that I have that I follow.
I do feel like when after you get back revision notes, or I don't know whether if you're just feeling stuck, sometimes walking away and taking a walk can
Yeah.
just, I know that sounds silly and it's not the fix. It does not replace the work. It does not replace the butt in the seat. But sometimes I know I do just take it too seriously and it just seems like this big elephant you have to eat, and it's one bite at a time. And there's a lot of science behind walking and creativity and getting that moving. And sometimes I think we get stuck in the rules and the parameters, and we stop having fun. So
That is a
can be a
good
tool.
clue. I was going to say
Yeah,
that is
it's
a good
true.
clue in the middle. If you're not having fun in your middle,
Yeah.
right.
I think distraction, though, can be a tool. Some of my best ideas is when I'm doing the dishes. I'm like something that's mindless, that is movement, that is distracting me from things, and it lets your mind just release and relax,
Yes.
and then it can start churning again on these things. The other thing I was going to say is another tool that I have suggested to clients occasionally is if you're in the middle anywhere really that you're struggling with, it works especially for the middle. You have your beta readers or people have said, okay, yeah, I'm totally engaged, but then I slowed down here or stopped here. Take that entire chapter out and say, what do I have to have right here to connect this chapter with this chapter? What do I have to have in here? What is the key elements of my character, of my world, of my plot? What absolutely has to happen? And secondarily, what could possibly happen? And what amazing or horrible or terrible or fascinating things could happen here?
I love
And
that.
try and ask yourself questions, because questions open up your mind for the ability to have, like, it creates a space in your mind where your mind can answer. You say, what could I do here differently? What else could happen? And that's a tool I think that can just make things more exciting.
I think that,
Like
yeah,
that.
that taking out the chapter, that's powerful because you
Yeah.
pull that out. Do you need it? That's a great idea. I do also really love going through and brainstorming with other people. Got the wonderful opportunity to brainstorm with my editors at Shadow Mountain for a next story. And somebody suggested something about music. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And then it's so amazing what happens when you start. It's like just that idea. It's, oh, I could do this, I could do that. And then you come back and you can talk to me. I got this. And I have had epiphanies of fun things to do just from talking to somebody else, somebody outside of
Yeah.
my box that's going to give me this different perspective. And it's like, oh my gosh, this could be so fun. So I think don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to just go a different direction if you need to, or I don't know, ask somebody, talk to somebody, because I have found that the most helpful. I don't know.
No, that's a good point. Great point.
One last little tidbit I have here for the murky middle is, if you're struggling to figure out a main character or figure out what's going on, think about the chapter or write the chapter from another character's perspective. Because sometimes that other character will see things or have things happen or have motives or intentions that could really spice up what's going on in your main character's life.
It's a good point.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Love it.
My husband's
I think those are all great suggestions. And I'm going to be using some of these things and maybe pulling some chapters out of my middles pretty soon to see what happens. How about you guys? Have you learned something from us, each other?
Yeah, community is super important for
It
many
is.
reasons. And one of those reasons is getting together and brainstorming, not even critiquing, just sharing ideas in the same space is very empowering. So we're glad you're with us. We're glad you're a wayward writer, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Wayward Writers.
Let's connect. Find us at waywardwriters.com, X, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook.
See you next time. Conquer your path.